Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
So this summer, I've been doing these 7 weeks to greater happiness. And what I realized is that sometimes when you think you're going this direction, have you ever been on a path that you think is going to take you one direction, and you realize the path, as you keep following the path, actually took you around, and now you're going exactly the opposite direction that you thought you wanted to go? Has life ever taken you in a direction that was completely not the direction you wanted to go, but it actually became the perfect direction for you to go? Like it was the right direction. Your mind thought you were supposed to go this way, and life somehow took you in the right direction. Well, tonight this summer, I've been doing 2 paths. It's been the path of joy, happiness, and the path of love. And tonight, those 2 paths crash. And they crash right into each other. And because part of happiness, part of joy, has to be in love. Because love makes us happy. True? It just does. Love makes us happy. So that's where we're going tonight. So let's go to are you guys ready? Johnny, you there? Here we go. Let's go to number 1. So the first point that we started with says, what thought or what belief would you need to let go of to be happier? I didn't remember it that way, but that's what it says, right? So, and over and over again, see, most of us were taught that happiness is an addition problem. Right? If I just get everything I want, then I'm going to get happy, right? And then what happens is you get everything you want and you're still not happy, because happiness is never really an addition problem. It's always a subtraction problem. What thought, what fear, what judgment, what attitude would I have to let go of to be radically happy? And so we began with that idea that happiness isn't about addition, it's about subtraction, and the subtraction has to happen within us. We have to decide day in and day out, what would I have to let go of to be happy? And that's where it all begins. And so have you felt like, as we've gone through this series, that you've actually been willing to let go of some stories and some drama and some resentments that really allow you to be happier than you've ever been before? If you haven't, I want you to come back to this first point, because all happiness is based on this first point, that happiness really is always a subtraction issue. It's not an addition problem, right? And over and over again, what would I have to let go of to be radically, wonderfully happy? Because we believe that if we just get it all, then we're going to be happy. But some of us have had it all, and it still didn't make us happy, because it's always on the inside. Okay, the second point. I wanted you to every day to kind of give yourself a number between 1 and 10 on how happy you were that day. And some of you have come up to me and said, you know, I really thought I was going to see that every day I was a 7 or an 8. And I'm really beginning to see there's more days where I'm a 2 or a 3 than I was a 7 or an 8. Because we have this understanding that we're actually happier than we're actually experiencing life. That we have this belief that we're all happy people until you start keeping track, right? That there's an incredible thing that happens, that when you go from being unconscious to conscious, life begins to shift. And it really doesn't begin to shift until you can become more conscious, until you're willing to actually see day in and day out, how happy am I? Am I a 2 or a 3? Or am I an 8, 9, and 10? Because where I want you to be an 8, 9, and 10. I want you just to be just happy, happy, happy. Now, does that mean that you're going to be manic? No. Right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a deep soul happiness where you feel connected to life, where you're just happy because you feel empowered to life, okay? Then the third thing I invited you to look at was to rate, there you go, to rate your commitment to happiness every day. And to really see, am I really committed to being happy, or do I like being kind of cranky? Well, it's kind of fun to be kind of cranky because, people give me some space. I don't really like my family that much, so if I'm cranky, they don't get very close. Like whatever your story is, I don't really like my job, so if I get cranky, they will just leave me alone. Just dad's in the office, just leave me alone, right? Or whatever it is, right? So I really want you to see day in and day out what's your commitment to being happy, and are you willing to really expand that commitment to happiness? Okay, give me the next one. Here's one of the things that we really focused a lot of energy about is taking dominion over our mindset and really deciding over and over again, are you the victim to life or are you the master of your life? That when you really feel like you're the master of your life, your happiness automatically goes up. If you feel like you're a victim to circumstances, if you're a victim to what's going on in the news, or you're a victim to what's going on at work, or you're a victim to what's going on in your family, your happiness tends to take a dive. If you feel like you really have control over your own happiness, that you have control over your own life, that you get to make choices that really move your life forward, your happiness goes up because your sense of control really begins, and I mean that in a very broad way, actually begins to move forward. So over and over again, if you just tell yourself the truth, do I feel like I'm a victim to life or do I feel like I'm the master of life? Do I feel like I'm at choice point, or other people have all the choices and I'm just a victim to whatever choices they make? That over and over again, what I want you to see is your mindset counts. Let's go to the next one. And then I wanted you to write down 3 things every day that you're grateful for. 3 things every day that make you happy. 3 things every day so that we're actually wiring our brain toward the positive. That we're not just focused on the negative or the problems or the challenges, but that we're actually wiring our brain for the positive. Let's go to the next one. Path Up. This was such a fun talk to do. The week that I got to teach this one was such a fun thing because the point that he made was over and over again, people have 3 ways of looking at life, right? And the 3 ways are that life is going to continue to maintain exactly the way it is. Now, most of us, if we think that our life is going to stay exactly the way it is, do not get happier. Right? If we think we're going to live the same life over and over again, day in and day out, that nothing's ever going to change, most of us do not get happier. But that's not even the worst part. If we think our life is going to get worse, we actually get almost depressed. We do get depressed, right? And those are 2 of the ways that predominantly people see their life or their future. That it's either going to just stay the same and I'm just going to keep chugging through it till the day I die, or this is actually the good point. And from here on down, it's just going to be a slow, gradual slide into awfulness, right? But the thing that we pointed out is that when people believe that there's a path up, they actually begin to look for it. And there's an incredible amount of scientific studies that if people believe that there's a path up, it changes their mindset, it changes their emotions, it changes their reaction to life, and it's an internal belief that when you begin to believe that no matter what's going on in your life, that there's a path up, that there's a higher, greater way that your life could evolve into a better reality, the moment you begin to believe that there's a path up, it actually becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It actually provides a path up. Because in an infinite universe, is there always a higher path up? Yes, there's always a higher path up. But if we don't believe there's a higher path up, we don't look for it, and it actually begins to cause us to go down, down, down. All right, next one. Happiness circles. Are you working on this one? How many of you were here when I tried to fight the rain? Some of you were here when the big rainstorm came that Wednesday, and it was this incredible storm, and I'm trying to outshout God, and God won, and there was actually a moment when all the doors on this side of the thing swung wide open, and the rain was vertically just coming in, and the whole, and there are points where I'm trying to teach something, and the universe is so helping me teach it because it's not giving me anything that I want. Right? Have you ever had that experience? Well, sometimes as a teacher, you teach the best when it's not working when it's not working, right? So the happiness circle is this idea, and he called it the Zorro circle. And the Zorro circle is that my happiness has to be right here. That until I get happy with me, I'm never going to be happy with anything in my life. That happiness comes right in this little circle that I'm in. And over again, if I'm not happy with my little circle, my circle's not going to expand. That happiness starts right here in me, in my little Zorro circle, my little happiness circle. All right. And then we consciously choose habits that make us happy. And then last week we talked about, was that it? That's the last one? Great, thank you. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about the last three. And the number one thing or the top three things that really allow us to be happy is how connected we are to the people around us. And the number one thing that really defines happiness is, are you doing life alone or are you doing it together? Do you feel like your life is a group project or are you a lone wolf? And over again, the research shows that those individuals that feel like their life is a group project are actually happier. How many of you have ever heard the line where Jesus said, in the world there's tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I've overcome the world? Anybody ever heard that scripture? Right? Okay, so that scripture, when you think about that scripture, in the world there's tribulation, but be of good cheer, for I've overcome the world. What do you think is the most important word in that scripture? Overcome, right? Anybody else want to throw out a word you think is the most important? I want you to hear that I think the word I is the most important word. And as spiritual beings, we think that we are supposed to be this rugged individualist that does it all by him or herself. And what I want you to see is I would like you to replace that word with we. In the world there's tribulation, but be of good cheer, for we have overcome the world. Because the moment we move from I, when we're living just from our I, then where does the help come from? Me. There's no help outside of me. There's no group project. I have to overcome the world, right? And I absolutely believe that Jesus maybe did it on his own, but he always said over and over again, the Father and I are one. He was always in community. He was always in relationship with others. He had his 12 guys hanging out with him. Even when he didn't want them around, they were still around, right? So he was always about relationship. And so one of the things, and where I want to start tonight, is this idea that your happiness is predicated on how well you're doing relationships. Are you with it? Are you willing to go with that? Because if you're feeling alone, how happy are you? Low happiness. If you're feeling isolated, cut off, is your happiness, are you doing high happiness or low happiness? Low happiness. That we're actually better. We are designed. We are people of the litter. We are supposed to be a part of a community of people around us, and our happiness really is predicated by how well we're doing relationship. And that's the whole purpose of spiritual community, is to bring people into community, into relationship, so they can support each other, because in life there is tribulation. There is stuff. And when stuff is happening, do you move toward relationship or away from relationship? And that's the thing that is the most important that I really want you to look at. When push comes to shove in your work, in your family, in your finances, do you move toward other people or do you move away from them and you're going to go fix it on your own, and then when you're neat and perfect and everything's just right, then you move back into relationship? Or do you actually use relationship and community as your path through every adversity that you face? I want to read from the book. The book that we've been using is The Happiness Advantage. And we are on Principle 7. I got so excited I forgot to mark the page. Here we go. I can remember hearing the trading bells ring at the end of a particularly vicious day in November 2008. The Dow was way down. Countless sums of money had been lost. And I watched swarms of traders loosen their ties, walk away dejected off the floor. But what struck me was that they didn't retreat into the stronghold of their team as they normally did after a great day. They all walked away silently and alone. They were smart, capable, with MBAs and some of the brightest that these world institutions had to offer. Yet in a situation that required them to be firing at all cylinders, where they actively needed to undercut and the old patterns, they walked away alone. At every time they needed one another, at the time when they needed one another most, they had formed the most valuable resources, social support. And time again, in these perilous months, I saw company after company reject teamwork and training and social perks, ignoring them, and actually moving to more and more isolation. We don't have to go to the brink of collapse in the economy to understand how easy and necessary it is not to retreat into ourselves, but to build relationships, especially in time of need. So here's the deal, right? I want you to really look, like if something's going on in your life, everybody's had something in the last month or two that's gone on in your life, right? Right? Now, if you're ashamed of what's going on, do you move toward relationship or out of relationship? Out. You move out, always, over and over again. So when in 2008, the traders were on the floor, they're wheeling and dealing, and things are crashing around them, right? Now these guys and women are used to an incredible level of success, right? So in the time when things are crashing and breaking and they're like, we just lost more money than most of us will ever make, do you think their shame was high or low? High. And in their shame, did they move toward people or away from people? Away. And in the times when they actually needed each other's not only support emotionally to support, oh my gosh, what did we just go through? But we needed the brain trust of working together to create solutions to overcome it. But our shame actually doesn't allow us to have the level of support that we need. So what I want you to really look at tonight is, can you see at least one place in your life where your shame has isolated you? At least one place in your life that you've had shame about that has caused you not to reach out for help, not to be in relationship, not to ask for somebody for prayer support, not to get more information about, because your shame caused you to isolate. See, over and over again, in the times when we need the most help is when our shame tends to be the highest and we actually go without it. And it just makes no sense. Over and over again, when we need relationships the most, our shame keeps us from it. And what would happen tonight if you just begin to notice where your shame is isolating you? Now, in our culture, do we appreciate and celebrate failure? Do we go, oh man, that was such a great crash and burn? Man, you really just blew that project up. Good job. Like that might be the worst project we've ever had in this organization. So hats off to you. We're going to bring a cake in, and we're going to have a whole afternoon party to celebrate that was such a wonderful crash and burn, right? Right? No, we go into our shame. We start telling stories about ourselves that we're not quite enough, or we're not good enough, or we're what an idiot I am, or whatever. And so in the moment we need the most connection, we isolate. So tonight, what if you looked at how your shame causes you to isolate? And what if you were willing to actually move toward relationship in those places instead of away from relationship? One of the longest running psychological studies of all time was the Harvard Men's Study. They followed 268 men from their entrance into the college in the late 1930s all their way through present day. From the wealth of data, scientists have been able to identify the life circumstances and personal characteristics that distinguish the happiest, fullest lives from the least successful ones. In the summer of 2009, George Villant, the psychologist who is currently, for the last 40 years, the director of the study, told the Atlantic Monthly that he could sum it up in one word. The number one thing that defined the success of these 268 men over 70 plus years was love, full stop, love. That the thing that we need over and over again to be our happiest is love. And then he goes on and just shares these incredible stories. The study, one after study, the effects on your health, that not only does love make you happier, it heals us, it restores us, it makes us all connected. So one of the things I want you to look at is in your life is which is more important? And it's really this simple. Which is more important? Is hiding your shame more important to you than getting love? Because those are really the two places we're living at. We're either ashamed and hiding, or we're getting love over and over again. And social connections allow us to overcome our shame over and over again to get love. Now, in the book, he talks about, how many of you have seen the movie Blind Side? Everybody seen the movie? Great. If you haven't, it doesn't matter. This is you. Can you see what that says? Can you zoom in on it? That says QB, right? So who's the quarterback of your life? You are. I am. We're all the quarterback of our own lives. Now, on a football field, because we're going into season, there are 4 positions. I said 4, I meant 5. There are 5 positions that are the most important to the quarterback. Do you know what those positions are? The front line. Right? The front line defines everything about how well this guy gets to do his job. So we have the center, we have a guard, we have a tackle, we have another right guard and a right tackle, right? So these 5 people define how, in many ways, how successful they are. Because if they can't do their job, he's a goner. Right? His career, everything. He's a goner. And then in the book, he tells the story of Joe Montana. When Joe Montana, the season he got his brand new front line, he got this front line that just, and at that moment, the 49ers went crazy. Their whole game changed because their front line was one of the best, right? So I want you to look at these 5 spots. And the thing that I want you to see with these 5 spots is I want you to have 5 people in your life that you can tell your complete truth to, regardless of how much shame you have about it. Now, you only need, if you get 5, that's all you need. If you have 5 people in your life that you can tell your whole truth to, that's all you need. You don't need hundreds. You don't need thousands. In fact, you don't want to tell your whole truth to 1,000 people. The phone bill alone would be too much. But you absolutely need a handful of people that you can tell the whole truth to and will love you right there, because you're going to have situations that create shame for you. We just are. We're gonna fall down. We're gonna mess up. We're not gonna do what we want to do. We're gonna do things over and over again that are gonna trigger our shame. And when we're triggered in our shame, if we stay within ourselves, we're lost. Because if we stay within ourselves, we begin to isolate and pull away from the very thing that we need the most. And I want you to have at least 5 people that you can tell the whole truth to, and that they will love you right there. I did a talk during the season on Summer of Love, and I invited you to look at the people in your life from 3 different points of view: green, yellow, and reds. If you were there that Sunday, I said the green people are the people that unconditionally love you, that you can tell them anything, and they will just love you, and they'll just think that's adorable, and they'll just say to you, I love you right there, right? And I know that most of us have 2 or 3 people that are green. I mean, yeah, they just love us, right? And then the yellows. The yellows are the people in our life who it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they're unconditionally loving, and sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're judgmental, or they'll try to fix us, and sometimes they'll just love us right there. Those are our yellows. Or also our yellows are the people that we don't know well enough to know if they're a green or a red, right? And then the reds are people who have a high probability of not unconditionally loving us. And they can be important people in our life. They can be our spouse or our kids or our parents or our boss. They can be people that are important to us. There was a time in my life that the 5 people around me were all reds. And if you're used to having reds in your life, you think having reds in your life is good because if you can get their love, it actually means something. That somehow their love is a better quality of love. So when you finally earn a red love, you actually did something. But then you spend all your time and energy trying to get their love instead of turning to the greens who will just give it to you for free, right? And so love is like good food. It doesn't matter who cooks it as long as you get enough. Is that true? Right? Love is love. So what I want you to look at tonight is who are the 5 people? Who is your offensive line? Who are the 5 people in your life that are responsible for protecting you, loving you, supporting you, being there, that you can call and say, this is what's going on for me. And if you're not sure, then what I want you to do is actually, how do you find out if a person is a red or a green? Do you know how you do that? You actually tell them the truth about yourself. And do they judge you or do they love you? And if you realize that everybody in your life's a red, you need to get a new group of friends. Right? Because over and over again, what I want you to see is the happiest people. Over and over and over again, the happiest people are the people who are more socially connected. That over and over and over again, the most important thing is that you're not doing life alone. You're not doing it alone. But instead of spending time in your shame and isolation, you have to go to your front line. And I want you to think of these 5 people as your front line. And your front line's got your back. They will absolutely do whatever it takes to support you. That you can pick up the phone at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I just had the worst day of my life. And they'll actually pick up the phone. They'll actually listen. And they won't say, well, this is what you should have done. Well, I know that now, thank you very much. Right? They'll just say, I love you. I love you right there. And I'm sorry it's so hard. I'm sorry it's so hard. So over and over and over again, what I want you to see tonight is how much time and energy is your shame causing you to be alone. Now, if you really like being alone, I say great, right? But if you're alone because of your shame, it's not great. And in your time of need, in your time of crisis, in the time when life gets hard, do you have people in your life that will just love you right there? Because ideally, we are not intended to be alone. If you think about it, God could have put just one of us on the planet at a time, right? But there's 7 billion of us. We were definitely not creating a world where we're alone, right? So tonight, you ready for your homework? So tonight, I want you to pay attention to the quality of your connections. And ideally, I want you to have one high-quality, meaningful connection every day to see if that doesn't make you happier. Now, how do you create a high-quality, meaningful connection? You have to tell the truth. You actually have to be vulnerable. You have to share something real instead of just staying in your shame. So if you say, oh, everything's fine, is that ever going to lead to a high-quality connection? No, because you just lied through your teeth. You could have the worst day in your life, and you say, oh, everything's fine. And you hang up the phone and you go cry for 30 minutes, right? So to create high-quality connections, you have to tell the truth, and you have to tell the truth to people that you have a high probability that will love you right there. You want to practice? I love you right there. Will you say that with me? I love you right there. Now, if they go into trying to help you fix it, say, you know, this is all I need. I'm going to help you. You're going to be a superstar. You're going to say, all I need is for you to love me right here. Oh, but I want to help. I know you do. I get it. But all I really need you to do is love me right here. But I wanted to tell you about a story where I did the very same thing so you can learn from my mistake so you don't have to repeat it. Got it. What I want you to do, say it with me, I want you to just love me right here. And that over and over and over again, we actually train the people around us how we want to be supported. Ready? I love you right there. I love you right there. I love you in the place where you feel the most ashamed. I love you in the place where you feel the most alone. I love you in the place where you feel the most isolated. I love you in the place where you actually need the most love. I love you right there. One more time together. I love you right there. Will you pray with me? I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul right here, right now. And to feel the presence of God that is within you and all around you. And today we stay in community. We stay connected. We release any need for our shame, our fear to isolate us. And we notice as we just get happier that it actually makes us happy to be in relationship with others. So in the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.